Hey guys, welcome to our live video. I'm Daniel, this is Karen. So,
Hello.
welcome back, Karen. Last week she was in Buffalo, New York, visiting family, and we are glad to have her back.
Good to be back.
Things run much smoother with her here.
Yeah, thank you.
So, last week we talked about, or I guess 2 weeks ago, we talked about a remodel project. So, how should you, or how do you decide whether or not you want to start a remodel project or not? So if you've made that decision, if you've decided I'm going forward with this remodel project for whatever reason, the next step really, and in some ways it's kind of the same step, but it's deciding should you do it by yourself or should you have a pro do it. So the main things that we're going to be covering is the pros and cons versus doing it yourself versus having a pro do it. We're going to talk about a flow chart that's actually attached in the description here. And then we're going to talk about some things that we really recommend leaving to the pros.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that you look at statistics and they're saying it's almost 50-50 of people who choose to go with a contractor and people who will choose to do it themselves.
Right.
So, and that could be just because of the scope of the job. People are saying, there's no way I'm touching this, and other people will be like, sure, I can paint that wall.
Yeah, well, and the big thing that it really comes down to is time, money, and quality. That's really the main things. If you have all the money in the world, pretty much you're always going to have a contractor do it. Because if you do it by yourself, you're going to save money doing it, which is why a lot of people decide to do something themselves. They may get a bid and then they get sticker shock and go, oh my gosh, yeah, there's no way I'm going to pay 20 grand to have someone do that. The thing is though, and we talked a little bit about this before, but you have to really know the scope of your work. You have to really have an idea of a time budget. I think we talked about that as a time budget, because when you're doing something by yourself, it's going to go way longer than you think. Whereas a pro might be able to get it done in just a few days.
Yeah. So interesting along that line. If you work with a contractor, they should be giving you the scope of the work for the job, which will rein in your finances and your time and everything. So you'll know exactly what to expect, how much it's going to cost. They'll build in all the extras. They already know how much it's really going to cost you. Whereas you may set a budget and go way outside that budget because you start looking at countertops and you decide you really want that granite. Yeah.
Well, and it's not an all or nothing thing either.
Right,
You can have most of the project be done yourself, but really save just a couple things for the contractor, and we'll get into what those things should be.
Yeah.
So the next part is the flow chart, which is like I said, we have it attached there in that link at the bottom, and the main thing that covers is safety. So number one, if it's something if you haven't done the project before, and it's something that could, if it's not done right, could cause damage to you or a family member or the home, it's best to have a pro do it. Whereas the more cosmetic type things are easier to just, you can do those yourself.
Yeah.
Another thing is, do you have the right tools? Which can be something that you may decide to buy the tools or rent the tools. Do you have someone that you can talk to, like that can help you and let you know whether or not
your experience. You really want to have a good idea of what you're getting into before you start that project. Yeah, because you can think you know how to do it, and remodeling is not something you want to guess at. You really want to know that you can do the job. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing is the quality. So if it's a quality that it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to look perfect, then maybe you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
So like trim work or trying to think of the other ones that we were talking about. Paint.
Yeah. Painting is pretty good.
If you tape things up well, then you could paint. That's kind of the simple one. Hardware, so replacing doorknobs, replacing outlet covers, replacing cabinet handles, those kind of things. But there's things that kind of to the third point that we recommend always having a professional do. So the main things are if it's structural or if it's a load-bearing wall. We talked about the story of a friend who just started smashing holes in a wall. That's a dangerous thing to do because you may not know if a wall is load-bearing, meaning that if that wall comes down and it's not supported properly, the whole roof could come down, which is one of those rare cases where it is cheaper to have a contractor because you don't want your roof falling down on you. And there's a lot of other safety and liability things there. So structural load-bearing walls, or if you're not sure, that's the biggest thing. If you're not sure, have someone who's qualified come and take a look at it. Electrical is a big one. So outlet covers is one thing, but if you're having to move plugs around, especially if it's an older house and the wiring may be different than what you may be used to, if it's something you're not familiar with, always have a contractor, electrician come out and do that, because there's just too much at stake there.
Yeah. Lots of stories of what you find when you start opening walls and looking at the wiring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is plumbing. You know, with sewage plumbing, as gross as it might be, it's actually a little bit more safe to do that yourself, because you're not going to be dealing with something that could be flooding. You know, you're not going to have a water line bursting on you.
Know where your water main is if you are going to do
Yes,
plumbing. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last one is hazardous materials such as asbestos. If you have a popcorn ceiling, or if you have an old linoleum floor, usually those have asbestos in them, and it's best to have. It's best to have. I'm not going to make that joke, but it's best to have a qualified person come out and take care of those things. There's also, potentially legal ramifications if you try to do that by yourself.
Yeah, and you're going to sell. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully you found this helpful. Again, many of the things we covered are in the link that we shared. There's a flow chart that several aspects of it are helpful. It's not an end-all be-all by any means. But
some great articles, though. Yeah, just to skim through. And
and if you need someone, if you do decide that you are wanting to tackle a project, I guess one of the things we didn't cover is materials. That's another way that you can kind of hack your way into that. If you have a professional do it, you can still order the materials and save some cost.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you do need qualified professionals for any of the work you're doing, please give us a call. We do know several different types of contractors, between handymen, plumbers, electricians. So feel free to give a call. There's some people I could recommend for you as well. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your week and weekend. And Karen will be gone next week, but I will see you next week.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
See you later.